now, let me invite the next speaker, Dr. Gerard Bodekar, professor from University of Oxford, England, a well-known figure and a great admirer of Ayurveda. Yesterday, I listened to him in International Delegates Forum. Very electrifying thoughts, encouraging for our Ayurveda community, and his thoughts will be most enlightening for us. Let us welcome Dr. Bodekar with a hand of applause.
I think the reason that I was asked to talk on this global perspective is that my colleagues and I at Oxford University produced 5 years ago now the World Health Organization Global Atlas on traditional, complementary and alternative medicine. This was commissioned by the World Health Organization and published by them to record and analyze and map the status of policy in traditional, complementary and alternative medicine around the world. Now, it's a big atlas. There are 2 volumes, 1 volume of maps, 1 volume of chapters charting these trends around the world. It's a fast evolving sector, so already 5 years on, it's out of date. But it's the best we've got right now. And I want to show you a couple of maps that will tell us a story about globalization of traditional medicine, and within that, globalization of Ayurveda. This is a map of the use of herbal and traditional medicine around the world by the people of the world. And going from light green to dark green, indicating light use to high use, and in some cases just light data, we see that this is a green world. There is nothing alternative about alternative medicine. It is a global social reality. It is a socio-medical reality. When we look at what governments are doing in response to that previous map, we see that around the world again, there is legislation and policy on traditional, complementary and alternative medicine. It is becoming a formal part of healthcare around the world. We looked in at specific traditions and specific systems, and here's a map looking at the yellow of not use of, but official recognition of traditional Chinese medicine. Madam Jalaja drew attention to the great advancement of Chinese medicine. And I'd like to say there's a big difference between how Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine have globalized. The key difference is that the globalization of Chinese medicine has been a highly centralized exercise. It's been coordinated from Beijing with a regulatory backing, with a trade division, with an international agenda, with very big funds, including funding for the World Health Organization's Office of Traditional Medicine. You see how widespread with the yellow there is official recognition in some way or another of Chinese medicine. There's more yellow now, 5 years on. Britain is yellow. We have legislation in Britain authorizing the practice of acupuncture and licensing the profession of acupuncture and the profession of Chinese herbal medicine. Here is the map for Ayurveda of official recognition. Remember, this is not use. This is governments recognizing. Chinese medicine, Ayurveda. So you can see that through systematic, centralized, coordinated government-to-government work, China has made great headway. The globalization of Ayurveda has been led largely not by a centralized effort from government, but by corporations who have gone out, and Ayurvedic doctors who have gone out, and movements that have gone out, taking the message of Ayurveda to the world, which is commendable, and we are very appreciative of this. But because it has not been led by government, there has not been this regulatory agenda, and that's why you see the difference in these maps. And that's the starting point of our conversation about the globalization of Ayurveda. So the first thing to close gaps in Ayurvedic globalization agenda, several priorities will need to be addressed. My colleagues on the dais have already been talking about some key ones here, but the first thing to really formalize a home for Ayurveda, not just popularize, but formalize, and there's a big difference, is for focused exchanges with government regulatory agencies in countries where Ayurveda is growing in popularity, to ensure that just as traditional Chinese medicine practitioners are licensed as healthcare professionals, similarly Ayurvedic physicians and therapists are also eligible for such official status within regional and national healthcare around the world, including licensure for the products that they have to be able to perform their clinical work. Another area that will help this is the establishment of World Health Organization collaborating centers on Ayurveda. Currently, here is a list of the WHO collaborating centers on Asian traditional medicine. There are 7 WHO collaborating centers on traditional Chinese medicine within China itself. There is 1 WHO collaborating center in Melbourne, in Australia at RMIT, on traditional Chinese medicine. There are 2 centers on Oriental medicine in South Korea, 1 WHO collaborating center in Pyongyang in North Korea, 1 in Hanoi in Vietnam, 2 WHO collaborating centers in Japan, and all of these systems derive from traditional Chinese medicine, as is acknowledged by the countries themselves. In fact, Kampo medicine in Japan, anyone heard of Kampo medicine? Yes, a few hands are going up. The word Kampo in Japanese means Chinese. So the Japanese are very honest calling their traditional medicine Chinese medicine. So there are a total of 14 World Health Organization collaborating centers on East Asian medicine derived from Chinese medicine. Sadly, there are no World Health Organization collaborating centers on Ayurveda or any other Indian systems of medicine. Do you like that? I don't think so. So this is something that has to be a priority to redress the balance in India, but just as China has done in the wider Ayurvedic family of Asia, the Ayurvedic diaspora of Asia, which we will talk about. In the global move towards integrated medicine, the combination of modern and traditional or complementary medicine with a patient-centered focus and an evidence base, one of the key things that will be necessary to have Ayurveda take a place in integrative medicine is evidence on herb-drug interactions. We have this for many, many popular Western herbs, how they interact with leading pharmaceutical drugs that people may be taking, but we don't have this for Ayurveda. And I said in the international forum the day before yesterday, this is a natural thing for Jammu to take up, the Jammu Institute for Integrative Medicine, with their long track record on safety issues, on pharmacology development, and their status as an FDA-accredited research institute. Here's an example. Anybody know this plant? Any hands up? Hypericum, St. John's wort. Yes, some hands are going up. This is used in Western herbal medicine to treat mild to moderate depression. In Old English herbal traditions, it was used to treat melancholy. Melancholy is mild to moderate depression in today's language. Clinical studies show that it is as effective as tricyclic antidepressants in treating mild to moderate depression with none of the same side effects. It is also completely non-toxic. There is no toxicity. However, it does interact with pharmacological drugs. The contraceptive pill is one. So if a woman is on the contraceptive pill and is also mildly depressed, and she takes hypericum, St. John's wort, she is at some risk of becoming pregnant. It also interacts with antiretroviral drugs. So if somebody is HIV positive and is on antiretroviral drugs, and, not surprisingly, possibly depressed, and they take St. John's wort, it will turn off the mechanism of action of their antiretroviral drugs and their viral load will soar. It's not toxic, but it does interact with other drugs. So herb-drug interaction is extremely important, and doctors need to know this, and they need to have a compendium of this information or to tap onto an Ayurvedic herb-drug interaction website at their desk so they can answer any questions. If the patient says, well, doc, what about my statins and my warfarin and whatever else? They can say, well, here's the information on what I've recommended for you. Then another dimension that has to be addressed in the globalization of Ayurveda is this area of public health. In this community, so many Ayurvedic doctors, so many Ayurvedic product companies, so many Ayurvedic researchers, we tend to focus on the clinical level, on the patient. But public health is about communities and about society. Public health is about taking the message of what works for an individual and benefiting the whole community. And again, Madam Jalaja has referred to this in her introductory remarks, of the importance of taking Ayurveda out to those who need it on a large-scale basis. And to this end, what we need is not just some well-intentioned efforts here and there. We need an agenda. We need a roadmap. We need to know where we're going in public health with Ayurveda. WHO already has a roadmap in public health. It includes major infectious and communicable diseases, HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, degenerative and lifestyle diseases, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, the metabolic syndrome, mental health. These are all WHO priorities. Why should we invent our own?